All right, welcome back. Hey, this is the live Q&A of should you rent, should you buy, or should you build? Okay, so hey, we'll be answering all of those questions. Wow, that was a jam-packed session we could talk much longer, but if we keep these things, anytime we go close to an hour, we do these live Q&As. We do these lives and we want these podcasts, we want people to watch them. But if it goes over an hour, then you're just not going to get a lot of people to watch. So, hey, if you're here live with me on the live Q&A, then, hey, be sure to chat. Be sure to comment. Be sure to be engaging, okay? And so if you had questions on our live broadcast, well, now's a good time to put those questions right here, okay? So anyway, and I kind of I want to just to because I was talking about Michael and Rhonda. Michael and Rhonda's they came here, and Michael and Rhonda, correct me if I'm wrong, but they actually bought a bus and are still living in that bus. And so they kind of made kind of a smart decision, but they found a piece of property, and like they said earlier, did have a farmhouse on it that they didn't think was livable. Even has a barn on it, but they really kind of looking for a place that they could kind of build on their own. And so, what?
I just want to interject here. In Costa Rica, almost anything is livable.
Well, that's a very good point, because
we've seen people, and we've thought about it at times. Just a couple of poles and a roof, and you can live in it.
Well,
we're living in a barn.
Yeah, we're living in a barn right now because we had no option. We're living. If you look behind us, that green screen back there, we put in here to kind of help keep some of the bugs out at night.
But that's one of the things I love about Costa Rica. No big utility bills. Staying cool and warm, like in Louisiana. Over $400 sometimes in the summer and the winter.
Okay, so hey, so back to what that story I was sharing, with Michael Rhonda. Yeah, I forgot they sold their bus. Just someone else is using it now that they've kind of got, are doing. They're still on the same property, but working on that stuff. So it is. It's kind of like what Rebecca was saying, and what Michael and Rhonda is saying. Hey, in Costa Rica, it's not going to be perfect. In the United, and that's where you have to learn to adapt to living in Costa Rica.
Okay, yes. Think about this. That's why there's a lot of things. Okay, if in the United States, if a towel has 2 labels instead of 1, people aren't going to buy it. It's that standard that is almost, I don't know, it's way above reasonable sometimes.
That's right. I think in the United States we have gone too far on the extreme on everything's got to be perfect. Like you said, right. For example,
a mark, any kind of mark, any
tiny discrepancy, any imperfection. The tag could be sewn on there crooked, and it doesn't pass quality control. They ship it to Costa Rica where it's sold. There's nothing wrong with it.
And that's why I say that, because a lot of times when I find something, it's full price in Costa Rica, or regular price.
It's regular price. But it's probably more expensive than in the United States.
Possibly, yes, because it had to be imported. But I look at it and go, yeah, this didn't pass inspection quality control in the U.S.
Yeah. So you do have to learn how to adapt to living in Costa Rica. And I talked about that. We talked about in detail last week. So if you missed last week's live broadcast, or actually a podcast with Rebecca and I, we talked about adapting to life in Costa Rica, went into detail on that. Okay. So anyway, hey, take a look at what Pamela says. Good morning, friends. Our bill in Florida can be as much as $600 in the summer. Hey, that's just their bill for electricity.
Right.
Okay. And so, it can get expensive. So if you're living in Costa Rica, well, you know what? If you don't want to have to pay that expensive electric bill, well, you can find you a piece of property that's in the mountains, like where we're at. You don't need electricity.
Well, you don't need air conditioning.
Okay, you don't need electricity. You can burn candles, but
well, you could.
And some people up here do. But I meant you don't have to have air conditioning, and you don't need heating, and so that reduces your electricity. Can you imagine? And there's so many people. Well, in this area, I think the closest electricity is about 10 kilometers away, 15 kilometers away. But the people that, there's a lot of a lot of Ticos, their electric bill is under $20 a month. Right. Easy.
And even on the coast, like when we go to the beach, to the coastal areas, we're kind of hot. It's burning up. But we get acclimated to it. And we could probably live there with no AC. And a lot of people do live without AC, but it sure does feel good when there is AC.
That's right.
So even though you could on the coast live without air conditioning, it sure is nice to have it.
Yeah. And so going back to, obviously, Michael thinks renting is the best option. And I think it's very important that you do rent, like I said, wherever you're going to buy for at least a year. However, in my opinion, I think because I can build, I say building is the best option because I don't want the problems of pre-existing. However, I'm going to highlight what Rhonda is saying. She says about our farmhouse. Yes, we have to rewire it completely from the meter. Yes, we have to install a proper septic system. Yes, we have to pour a couple of concrete floors. Imagine that. Why she's having to pour concrete floors? Because you know what? In Costa Rica, Ticos, it's not. I can live with dirt floors.
Yeah,
that's normal.
Dirt floor house.
That's normal. Yes, we have to put in a new roof on it. But guess what? Yes, you can do all of that, and you don't have to spend nearly as much money as it would if you were in Canada or in the United States. So yes, guess what? Michael and Rhonda, they essentially have a house that they really didn't pay for because they bought for it was there when they bought the land. So it's kind of a bonus. Yeah. They can build a roof, and that roof is not going to be. Now, the electricity, when they rewire the electricity, is going to be, depending on how they rewire, would cost you the same price as it would in the United States or more because the electrical wire might be more expensive.
And but boxes.
But when it comes to the roof, it's not going to be as much as the United States because in Costa Rica, especially where they're at, you don't have to have insulation in your roof. It doesn't even have to be 100% sealed, because like you said earlier, you can live almost anywhere outside because of the weather is so nice, right?
But then the bugs are a factor.
If you got an issue with bugs. Yeah. So, but she could still put a roof on the house and still seal it for cheaper than what you could in the United States.
In fact, a lot of the houses that we have rented, we're looking at it going, man, if we wanted to buy this, if it wasn't for the neighbors, maybe we would consider buying this. But it wouldn't have taken that much to modernize or, simple things like not being able to plug in an appliance because the wiring is so, I don't know what you would call it. I don't have the technical terms, but there's not enough in the box to support.
Yeah, there's not enough breakers, or they may have too many outlets on one breaker, and then you plug in a dryer and the rice pot is on, and bam, it flips the breaker because they, I'm not going to say that they wired it wrong. What I'm going to say is that they wired it knowing how they live, and guess what? In most places, a Tico's not going to have a hair dryer. In San Jose, we got hair dryers. I'm not talking about San Jose. I'm talking about the majority of the people.
Yeah, we're not talking about the condo complexes and the big, gorgeous houses or around the country. But it's not just Costa Rica. We're talking about Costa Rica because you are here, obviously, because you're interested in Costa Rica. Okay, in the United States, the first house that I bought before Alan, because he would have inspected it and told me not to buy it. But the first house that I bought on my own, the wiring was poor. It was in Louisiana. But you know what? They had wired it for the way that they were living. This house was built in the 1950s. So they didn't have microwaves.
That's right.
They didn't have
toaster ovens.
Right, all this stuff. So it worked fine for them. Of course, I had to redo everything. So, but in talking about houses in Costa Rica, even with with renting, you know, some things aren't major, but we have mentioned in other videos things like the not having the P trap, you know, and so that causes a lot of smell.
Yeah,
Not
big
having a
problem.
proper sewer system, so then you have seeping into the ground and odors coming back up through the shower and things like that. So
You know, I grinned a while ago, and I'm sure some of you may have caught that grin and wondered what I'm laughing at. You know, I was talking about Michael and Rhonda. Yeah, they got to rewire the house, and it could cost you more. And she says, you know, we're importing Romex, and I'm sure unless you know what Romex is, that it's comical because I know what that is. You know, in the United States we have Romex. Romex is an electrical wire, and it has three wires on the inside. It has a black, a white, and a ground. You don't have that in Costa Rica. Surprisingly, Michael, though, and Rhonda, I did find some the other day. I think it was at the new Super Colano. I was shocked. I'm like, Romex, you know, in Costa Rica. Because typically in Costa Rica, they don't run 3 wires. They'll run 2. In most houses in Costa Rica, they're not grounded, okay? And which is the huge problem. So
remember the house in Chimiro where the electricity would go out and we'd have to call the landlord and he would come and just kind of like fool with the little wires.
Yeah.
He would twist them or something. It was one little wire coming into
right at the front porch, right?
And so we'd be like, oh, I guess a bird landed on the wire again and messed it up. So and these are real situations.
Well, you know, I mean, it's funny because Michael and Rhonda, they're rewiring their house, and we were talking about breaker boxes, and so she says there is no existing circuit breakers here at all. Well, that's not uncommon. You know, when they put up a house, if they can just run the wires without circuit breakers, so it's not uncommon to see a Tico house that has no breaker box at all.
Right. Or
None of my
those boxes inside the ceiling, the
junction boxes in the ceiling.
They don't have those.
You know, it's surprising because understand, I'm not saying Costa Ricans do it wrong. It's functional. It works. And a lot of times,
and if we didn't know any better, if we weren't from the United States, we'd have no clue.
That's
so
right.
It would be
and your house could burn
it?
up. Right. You know, so you have to understand that, you know, and they probably did it themselves and they have no electrical experience. But that's why whenever you get ready to build a house, they're like, oh, yeah, you should build a house. And I got a cousin. I got a brother. He can do electrical for you because he did it in his own house. Doesn't mean it's done right. Okay. Or it doesn't mean it's done to code. Doesn't mean it's going to be safe, but he can do it functional.
Well, and even when it is professional builders, because remember Los Juntas, the little house that we were going to rent. Ooh, the rent was cheap. And it was a new build. Nobody had lived in it before. And it was good for us. It was nothing fancy, but it was new and
brand spanking new.
Still very clean and everything. So we were kind of excited. And then we were looking at the house and it started pouring down raining. And do you remember what the ceiling?
The ceiling started leaking.
It started leaking and it was dripping in the bedroom. Right. I mean, you didn't have much of a choice where the bed would be. You knew where it was a small room. It would have been dripping right in the bed. And so the landlord that was showing us the place, he comes with a broom.
Comes with a broom handle.
Poking at the
where the screw hole is at.
And so it would stop leaking.
That's how he fixed it.
Yeah. So, you know, and that house was built by the builders. I mean, he didn't build that house himself. That was one of those bono houses.
Well, I'm glad you brought that. So pro bono house, that's where the government will give poor people. All you have to do is have a plot of land. And so the government will actually give you a pro bono house. And all it is a prefabricated concrete house, and they can go up fast, like in 30 days. Okay. And so they have a contractor actually throw these up. Well, the contractor threw these up, but guess what? The roof leaked, and it had never been lived in before. Okay, and so anyway, it will blow your mind. And this is a Costa Rican contractor building this for Ticos. So my point is, there is no spirit of excellence. There is no, hey, let's build this so that we can make sure it's done right. Throw it up, throw it up, throw it up. Give me the money, government. We're on to the next one. And it's important to understand that, okay? I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that's the normal in Costa Rica, okay?
And I'm sure there are lots that do it well, but we know of lots that were not done well. So
Yeah. So, there's, so, anyway, so, hey, make sure, if you hadn't put your question in here, make sure that you put your question in here. Really appreciate all the engagement. Okay. And look, Keith says it right here. Keith says, for the money I'm saving, I love it here. Wait a minute, Keith. What about all those people who say Costa Rica is too expensive? I can't afford to live here. Well, how is it you're saving money then? Okay. So, so here the truth of the matter is, it's all in your expectations, your lifestyle. Okay.
some
So
things are expensive. Every time we go to the grocery, we're like, oh my gosh,
that's right.
this is so much. But you know what? Things are getting expensive all over the place. We haven't lived in the States in 10 years. So we're like, we forget that things have gone up there too. So of course the cost is going to go up here, for things that are imported. So, but you don't have to live a certain way.
Yeah. It's so to the pro bono house, JR, as to my knowledge, no. Foreigner, you ain't getting no pro bono house. Okay. That, Costa Rica has this thing where they believe that everybody should have,
they're entitled to a house.
They're entitled to a house,
water,
entitled to water
and electricity. So they
yeah.
provide the solar.
And so,
panel.
if you were a Tico, maybe you could get a pro bono house. So pro bono houses are for the locals. Okay. That's, while every government is corrupt, in my opinion, Costa Rica, they're adamant about, they're going to take care of their people. I mean, they will screw their own people, but they're going to take care of their people if they can. And so they give them a house. You got to supply the land, and they're going to give you a basic house. A pro bono house doesn't have any electricity run to it, doesn't have any water run to it, but we gave you 4 walls and a roof, and you got to put the electricity in it. You got to put the water in it. So,
which is a good deal, because a lot of people,
great deal.
Yeah, a lot of older people were still living in dirt floor, wooden homes with tin roofs that the wood was being eaten by termites. It was falling apart. So yeah, that's one of the things I really love about Costa Rica, is how they protect their people. There's not a they protect their jobs. They protect their way of living. They take care of the elderly. They have. We've mentioned this before, but if you go into the bank and an elderly person walks in, it is customary that person gets to go first. If there's not a line designated for them, they are everybody accepts that they can go ahead of you. Same with a pregnant woman or a disabled person.
The wind is trying to blow my light down. Rebecca's over there trying to pick it back up.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's one of the things I really do love about Costa Rica, is that they really look after their Ticos, and they don't want some foreigner working, because then I'm taking a job. Okay, and I could totally understand that. Okay,
right? How many people would be moving here if they could just come here and
work
in the restaurants and the hospitals?
Yeah, and I have people email me, hey Alan, where's the best place that I can live so I can go get a job? Nowhere. You can't go get a job. Now, you can create jobs for other people. You can open up a business, and there are some exceptions to some of that stuff. Okay. However, hey, you don't want to move down here and find a job. That's just not happening. Okay. In a norm.
Not legally.
Yeah, not legally. Okay. So absolutely. And of course, we talk about, there are some things that are expensive, and it's like JR said, yeah, food is getting expensive here, but I was shocked whenever I went back to the United States and I saw how expensive stuff was getting in the United States. I was like, wow.
And we didn't even look at everything.
Yeah.
We kind of just went to Home Depot, and I think we went.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, things are going up. Things are getting higher and higher everywhere. Okay. But it doesn't mean that Costa Rica is too expensive. It just means that, hey, no matter where you live at, you've got to decide what kind of lifestyle you want to enjoy. Can you enjoy? Are you keeping up with the Joneses, or are you enjoying life? It's kind of like Michael and Rebecca and I. Hey, we accumulated tons of stuff that we never even needed or used. So it's understanding that kind of thing. What do you value more?
I like what Keith says. You know, he
This one.
pointed out it's that his wife is handicapped, and yeah, it's amazing, the culture as far as caring for other people. And I know this is off topic, we're not, but yeah, was it the day before yesterday? I had to pick up a package, and it's an odd shipping system, but something from San Jose gets shipped via the bus, and so your packages are at the bus station. And I waited in the bus in that line for almost 2
Nearly
hours.
2 hours.
Yeah, along with lots and lots of people. I mean, it's unbelievable, and nobody fussed, nobody carried
because it's
on.
normal.
Yes, and everybody was patient. While nobody liked it, you know, we kind of laughingly say, "Oh, listo," you know, or
Yeah.
it's
It
talk about how slow it was. But you know what? It was better than driving 3 hours
to San Jose to go get what you got to go
there
get,
and 3
right?
hours back, and the cost of gas. So you know, it's a whole different perspective. Is the
You
point I'm
have
trying
to
make.
adjust to that life.
Yeah.
You don't come here because you know I'm moving 100 miles an hour, and I've learned to slow down on a lot of things. Okay, and there's still a lot of stuff that I still am adapting to, and I have to remind myself. Okay, but hey, you know what? You know, there's some things that are a challenge for me, so I'll learn what I have to do so that it's not such a challenge. Okay. So hey, and I agree completely with you know, with what Jennifer said. While since we're talking about it, one of the great things about Costa Rica is no more keeping up with the Joneses like in the U.S. You know,
Yes.
yeah, you
Isn't
know,
that freeing? That is so freeing.
you know, I don't have a problem with telling people I live in a barn. It used to be horses in here. Okay, hey, you know, you know, I'm not trying to keep up with the Joneses, and yeah, I got a 26-year-old vehicle, and you know what? It gets me from point A to point B. I don't have to have a Tesla. I don't have to have a BMW. You know, I'm okay with what I've got. Okay, and that is very, very freeing. Okay, so things are definitely different here. So I'm going to scan through here because I want to make sure to answer questions about renting, buying existing, building. Okay, and hey, we'll answer other questions as well. But of course, since this is Q&A for that, I want to be sure to make sure I cover those topics. Okay.
Yeah, and that is a great bonus about renting, or pro about renting. You know, you may not know that the roof leaks, you know, and if you rented and the landlord doesn't fix it, doesn't want to fix it, then you can just move. You can find another place. Or
and here's a good question that Randy says, well, what form of payment for paying rent? What happens if I'm traveling? How can I pay rent? So here's what's very, very typical. And look, always, 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 always. Did I say always? Okay, always make sure that when you're negotiating your rent, negotiate your rent in colones. Now, majority of the time, they're going to try to negotiate, and they're going to want you to pay, you know, oh, it's $300 rent. No, 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 no. You know, that's why I always tell you, get you a buddy to call and find out what the actual rent is. It's always going to be cheaper, and you're going to get it in colones, okay? And, of course, they want you to pay in dollars because it's worth a whole lot more. So always, always negotiate your rent in colones. Well, you can pay rent most of the time. You know, sometimes the guy will come and collect the rent, but look, all you got to do is ask for his bank account information, and you can walk into any bank. You don't have to have a bank account. Walk into any bank and say, I want to deposit this money into my landlord's account, and you deposit that money into your landlord's account. It's that simple.
Yeah. And don't be afraid of the third degree that you get. You're trying to deposit money into someone's bank account. They want you to prove who you are. So you have to have your identification to even deposit in someone else's
That's right. So
bank.
they're going to look at your passport, and then they're going to go through all the pages, which they have no right to do, to see when was the last time you stamped out, because they, well,
and they want to know, they want to know what.
That's right.
properly reporting their
Yeah, they're
income,
gonna be, you know, Costa Rica is really big because they do have a problem with money laundering. So they're gonna ask you all kind of questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's normal. But what I would recommend, if you know, when you're first coming, I'm not that great of a fan of Airbnb, but it is a working international system. And so the first month or whatever week, however long, you can
All right. So I think we got cut off for just a moment there, and we're back up here. So I apologize if we were out for a second or two. Okay. Let me know if you experienced a break. Okay. So what was you saying, Rebecca?
Well, I was saying, you know, to get started, like when you first get here, Airbnb is a great resource because the rules are lined out. You know, the price is set, and so there's no haggling, which I don't like to have to do. So anyway, it's a good way to get started using Airbnb, even though you might pay more than you want it to, but that buys you time where you don't, you know, then you can find a local person that you can rent from and work the details out. You're not in a rush like that.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I saw a question here that I wanted to run into real quick. So let me quickly, but we see the light blinked and I was looking at it. I'm gonna come through here and I'm sure I'm gonna find it real quick.
Yeah. While you're looking for that, I'll just say, you know, when we did house sitting, we were house sitting for people who had built a house here.
Yeah.
And the reason we talk about some things not being right is because almost every house sit, there was something in the house that just wasn't just right. You know, there was something that was off that in the US we would not have been happy with because of the standards, you know.
Okay, so let me go back to that question on paying rent that he asked. And while, okay, so, and I think the big question is, okay, hey, how can I pay my rent and I'm traveling? Okay, so here's how you can do it. Okay, here's a very easy way. And someone said, well, how about you e-transfer? That should work as well. And then, of course, someone said, well, e-transfer is a Canadian thing only. Okay, so here's how you can easily do it. Let's say that you're renting and but you're traveling. Best way to do that is to open up a WISE account, WISE. Just wait, and you can click the link below this video, because if you click the link below this video, then I can actually save you some money whenever you do that. It's an affiliate link, obviously, but if you click on it, it will save you some money. My point is, if you open up a WISE account, it's an international thing. It's kind of like PayPal, but far, far better. So with a WISE account, and I just tested this myself a couple of days ago, I can transfer money from my bank account in the United States into a WISE account, and then I can connect it to my Costa Rican bank account or to any bank account. And then so now you can say I'm traveling, but I still need to pay my rent. And so I can transfer from WISE in colonas to that bank account so you can pay your rent. So if you want to know the easiest way to transfer money to anybody, whether you want to wire money, you can wire practically free from, let's say that from me to you to anybody who has, it's free, WISE to WISE. So anyway, to pay your bill, the easiest way is open up a WISE account. I will put that link in the description so that it saves you some money whenever you click on the link that I'm going to provide for you. So I hope that answers your question. That is really the easiest way to do it, okay?
And there have been issues that we've had, and some friends that live here still have, when they go back to the United States for a visit. It's how do they pay their water bill? How do they pay their electric bill? Because it's not really set up to, you know, to pay, like from the United States, from your checking account. So they have had to ask us occasionally to go into the store to pay their water bill, or
Yeah, but you know,
that's not everywhere. That's mostly in the little rural city
now.
towns.
So what you can do is, you know,
Or just pay in
obviously,
advance.
you know, well, you can't pay in advance.
Oh, that's right.
You
I
can't,
forgot about
which is
that, 'cause
crazy
we had
here.
tried to do that
So
before.
what you can do is, let's say that you're renting from your landlord. Just tell your landlord, give your landlord, you know, 50,000 colones and say, hey, please pay my rent for me. And of course, he's gonna pay my electricity and water for me. And he'll do that because it's in his name anyway. So you have to understand that when you're renting, you'll never have the water and electricity in your name. That's not typical in Costa Rica. When you're renting, that water and electricity, those utilities are in the owner's name usually. And so,
well, that's if you're renting as a tourist.
Yeah, as well.
Once you get your your residency, you can have your utilities.
Well, it doesn't matter if you're renting. He's not going to change it into your name.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
He's not going to change it into your name. So it doesn't matter whether
they don't go through the trouble.
They don't go through that. It's too much trouble to change it into your name. So it doesn't matter if you're, you know, a citizen here, which someone asked about that, but I don't see that question anyway. So, hey, use Wise. That's the easiest way. But what you can do is, even if you're not a resident, you can open up a bank account. I suggest going to one of the private banks like Coplienza. There's several private banks. It's easier to open up an account at a private bank. I have an account with Banco Nacional. I would never open up a bank account with Banco Nacional. They're the hardest one, in my opinion, is Bank of Costa Rica. They're the hardest ones to deal with. Okay. But you can open up. My point is, you can open up an account with Bank of Costa Rica, Banco Nacional. Normally you have to have a corporation, a Costa Rican corporation. Yeah, open up a Costa Rican corporation. You can open it, but you don't have to. You can go there. It does take longer. You got to get statements from your other bank, and you got to, you know, so, but you can, if you open up a bank account, then you can have online access no matter where you're at. And let's say that you're back in Louisiana and now you want to pay your electric bill, your water bill, your utilities, then you can pay it through your online bank account with Banco Nacional. So there are a couple of options.
Which is, I think Michael from Montreal is asking about if he can pay his bill through online banking, and but there are some utilities here that are not online.
Right. Well, matter of fact, when we were living down over in Potrero Grande, the water wasn't online, so you had to pay it physically. So yeah, you're right. You can pay a lot of your bills with your online banking. Yeah. Okay, but there's a lot of bills that's just not online.
Yeah. The national water system, the AYA, AYA.
AYA, yeah, AYA, AYA, the AYA bank, AYA water
system. They're online. But some of these little communities, like in Potrero Grande, they don't have AYA. They have their
own water system, you know. And so you had to physically just go by there and pay it.
And it literally is a lady at the store with a ledger book, a handwritten ledger book that just writes.
And how many times did we go there and they were closed?
Yes.
So, you know, those are some of the challenges that you just have to get used to.
But that's not the norm.
Yeah.
That's when you go live in the
middle of nowhere. No. It is the norm. It's the norm to find the abnorm in Costa Rica. It's normal to get surprised by how they do things. And it's just that it is so far behind when we're talking about, you know, it's not what you're used to. And that's okay. But that's why we have these chats, so that you're aware of it. And if you're aware of it, it makes it easier for you to adapt to life in Costa Rica.
Well, picture that little community. You know, we find it strange, but the water was so inexpensive. We're talking about
very cheap,
very, very cheap monthly. And it's just a small community. It probably would cost them thousands of dollars to get some kind of electronic system. So, I mean, that just wouldn't.
Well, you know, one of the big pros of actually living here is what Keith says. You know, what I love here is simple people. Okay. So, you know, it's the simplicity. Okay.
Yeah. So even though we talk about that and sound like, you know, we're just shocked by it, but we love it. It's very nice, the simplicity. But the reason we talk about it is because you might not realize that if you're coming here, you might not be prepared for that.
Yeah.
So,
you know, here's something that Pamela says that I really like, and it's very, very true.
Yeah.
You know,
hey,
you know, Pam and Tom, they want to come to Costa Rica. They're hoping to come soon. But hey, she says our only saving grace is that next year is an election year. Talking about election year in the United States. So prices will drop just to show what a great job the sitting administration has done for the people. Happens every election. Yes, you're right. So, hey, when is a good time to buy an existing house? A good time to build? Well, guess what? Next year, if things go the way I believe it's going to go, we're going to see prices drop like crazy. Inflation is not going to be a thing anymore. It's going to drop. So you'll be able to save a lot of money when it comes next election if things go in the way that we hope it's going to go. So, yeah, that's going to be a big savings for a lot of people who want to wait. Now, Keith has a good question here. It says, do you guys know about a shipping container here? When you buy a house here and import, taxes are waived. So there is a new law. It is a limited law. It's not going to go on forever and ever. But, hey, you know, the important thing is that, yeah, once you get your residency, okay, and if you get your residency set up right, that's why I say you need to talk to my recommended attorney, because if it ain't set up right, then you're not going to qualify for that new tax incentive. But there is a new tax incentive that got passed. They're actually doing right now that once you are a resident the proper way, then you can ship a container here and it doesn't cost you any import fees or any duties. And that's a huge, huge savings. Now, you still got to pay the right shipping company to actually ship it for you. And that could cost you a few $1,000s. I don't know how much. It is quite expensive, but you know, at least you can ship your stuff and you don't have to pay duty fees or taxes, which is a huge savings, which is a great, great thing. Okay. But you got to make sure that you have the right attorney. So be sure to ask me about that. Okay.
Because we do know somebody who went through the whole process for the purpose of doing that, just to find out he didn't qualify because it wasn't set up right.
Wasn't set up right. You don't want to make that mistake. Okay. And so, and he says, I heard that you have to have a temporary residency. Yes, I think you can actually start once you have that temporary residency, because the full-on permanent residency takes you at least 3 years. But once you have that temporary residency, which that in itself could take 9 months, year and a half, that in itself could take time. So, yeah, once you have that temporary residency status, then you're like, bam, okay, now you can go ahead and do what's necessary so that you can ship that thing. Okay. So, hey, thank you so much there, Michael. I mean, Rhonda said that Michael is taking care of business right now. He's not there, but thank you. You guys do such a good job explaining how things are here. Thank you for doing that. Hey, we greatly appreciate your kind words. Because we try to. Hey, it doesn't mean we try to be accurate on everything, but we
only
can
have our perspective.
That's right. We can make a mistake. But if I make a mistake, I'd be the first one to say, hey, I gave you some bad scoop last week. I found out about this. Okay.
And things change. Things are constantly improving here. That's why they call it a developing country. Things are improving.
Always developing, always getting better and
roads are
better.
The internet is better. The housing. Oh, they have new kinds of houses now. We call them the modern styles. You know, it's not the cinder block or the they're still made out of concrete, but they have new designs, and I like them. They're really pretty.
Now, I'm looking for other comments here, and I don't see any on building, so I'm going to answer this one here for Doug. Doug says, I think we need to update our batteries in a few years. Where is the best place to buy some lithium batteries? Okay, so what you want to do is, hey, hit me up, Doug, and I'll send you to my guy who hey, look, he had the best price on some super good lithium batteries, you know, guaranteed for 20 years, you know, or supposed to be good for 20 years. I can't say guaranteed for 20 years. I think I got a 2-year guarantee, but it's supposed to be good for 20 years. And so a lot of people that have existing solar systems, well, they don't have the lithium batteries. They have old batteries. They go out a lot quicker. And so if you buy a good lithium battery, it's supposed to be good for 20 years. But hey, I paid $1,000 per battery. I only got 2 batteries, and super good batteries, big batteries, but way, 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 way cheaper than, you know, I had one gringo business try to sell me one battery for $10,000. That thing better dance and do all kind of things. So you can get ripped off big time, not only from ticos, but from gringos who know you don't know better. So be sure to contact me and I'll send you the link to my guy so that you can get some lithium batteries from him. You'll get the best deal in the world, in my opinion, because I did a lot of detailed research trying to find the right place to get a solar panel set up. And
when we had an issue, he came right away.
Oh yeah,
which is unusual
because he gave me a guarantee and he came right away. And which Doug asked, am I upsizing my solar power? What do you think it will end up costing you? And are you on solar hot water? So I'm not on solar hot water. While that is a good system, what I wanted was something better. So I got instant hot water. Most popular kind of instant hot water is electric, but we don't have the power for electric. So I have propane instant hot water, which is great. So propane instant hot water, take a shower for as long as you want and have instant hot water. So I'm going to set up my tiny house with instant hot water. Yes, I will double the size of my solar power, which means right now I got 6 panels and 2 batteries. And it's been working great. Okay. However, I bought a much bigger deep freezer. And so we have enough, but I need better. So, once I put up my garden house, I'm going to double the solar system. So we'll have 12 panels and 4 batteries. And for what we do, will be more than adequate. And so I paid $6,000 for that initial system. I'm sure I'll pay $6,000 to double it. So for 12 grand, I will have more power than I need. Now, 12 grand, can I run my dryer? Can I run my, when you have solar, you have to be conservative in everything. Okay. Well, you just have to be conscious of what you can't be wasting stuff.
If we were ever to buy a dryer, I think we've talked about it would be propane.
That's right. You can have a dryer, just buy a propane dryer. So just look for ways to conserve.
And we have the Pelton.
Yeah.
If we install the Pelton, that really probably wouldn't even need more solar.
Yeah. So, So let me take a look at this question here. Okay, you go concrete or shipping container home? Which is a better price and lasts longer? I live at the beach. Okay, you live at the beach, I would go concrete. If you weren't at the beach, I'd say go metal. Okay, but depends on how close you are to the beach. Now, hey, if you're right on the beach, hey, go concrete. Okay, that's going to be better. If you have a shipping container home, it's going to be just like anything else. You're at the beach, and man, that salt air can just tear up metal in a heartbeat. There are things that you can do to slow that down. Okay, because that metal is going to get eat up. Now, where I'm at, that metal's going to last forever. If you get up in the mountains above all of that salt air and you're not getting salt air, you're not going to have a problem. But there are things that you can do so that you won't have a problem with metal, or not as much, okay? But if you're on the water, you can feel that salt air. Stay away from metal unless you're willing to spend, some extra money to protect that metal.
Yeah. And didn't we find pricing shipping containers? If you don't already have one, if you have to buy one, that they're quite expensive for what you get, and for what you could buy with the same amount of money in concrete.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was looking and I just could not find a place where I could get a shipping container at a decent price. In the United States, you can get them cheap, but I found out that I could just build a metal house, and if I were to build, a shipping container, you're restricted by that size, 8 foot, okay, by 20 foot, or 8 foot by 40 foot. And whenever I check the price, I could build a metal house, I could build a metal shipping container cheaper, way cheaper than the cost of buying one. So you're way better off if you're going to do metal just to build your own metal house. And then, of course, you do have options on building with light duty metal, okay, for building, which is quick and easy, or heavy duty metal, which takes a little bit longer because you're welding and all that, okay?
And I don't think we priced shipping containers out by the port cities.
No, well, I mean, I just couldn't, port cities, and I'm sure someone at the port city could sell it to you. Yeah, but the thing is, everything is crazy, crazy high. So anyway, that kind of just gives you an idea. So I'm cruising through here to look at some other questions. So anyway, that just kind of maybe gives you, hopefully will answer your questions on, because in Costa Rica, it's very typical for them to build concrete. They've been building concrete for years and years and years and years, and they probably always will build concrete because, well, you don't have to have all of the tools to build concrete. Literally a hammer, a straight edge, uh, they just, it's easy to build concrete. Is that your best choice? Probably not. Okay.
And look, Keith says he was comparing building materials, not necessarily the cost.
Yeah, he was building, he was comparing building
Yeah.
materials, and that's what we gave him. Which is better, concrete, metal, or whatever.
Yeah.
So on the beach, yeah, concrete is better, and it's always going to be cheaper if you have a prefab house, for sure. Okay.
They're coming out with new building materials all the time. Things that were not available when we first got here. Now they have it.
Now, here's one came up, and Keith says, for anyone that's on this chat, if you have Scotia Bank, so you do have to understand that a Scotia Bank here, even though it has the same name, it's not exactly the same as Scotia Bank in the United States or Canada. So there is a little bit of a difference there, and it's not like they work hand in hand. That's what I've been told by people that have Scotia Bank. So just so that you know that it is a little bit of a difference there, okay? And a lot of these things that we're talking about today, especially in building, and whether to rent, build, or buy, we go into detail on at the relocation event. So keep in mind, if you've been thinking about coming to Costa Rica, yes, indeed, you most definitely want to get you a ticket to the relocation event. And one of the pros, whenever and it's like Michael and I always say, hey, if you want to support Michael, go to his channel, click the link from his channel, and reserve a ticket there. If you want to support Rebecca and I, click the link in our description. One of the things that whenever you do purchase a ticket to the relocation event and you're supporting Rebecca and I, what we do is that just as our way of saying thank you, when you do reserve your ticket, well, we give you a free 1-hour consultation. So you reserve that ticket. And if you want a free 1-hour consultation, you want to get a good solid roadmap, a good solid game plan, we give you a free 1-hour consultation so that it can kind of help you to understand what it is you need to do. And you can schedule that at the retreat, after the retreat, before the retreat, anytime you want. So, hey, just to let you know, just click the link, reserve your ticket, and we'll be more than glad to say thank you and give you a free 1-hour consultation, for supporting us. And of course, here Patton Grass says building materials better to get at the Pacific coast, or also good to get at the Caribbean coast. Most containers go to Lemoyne. So yeah, most of your containers do go to Lemoyne. You do have some that go to the port city of Punta Arenas and that little bitty city. But yeah, most of them are at the Caribbean coast. So you probably can get a much better deal over there. But then keep in mind, you're going to have to transport that as well. Okay. And of course, I got my solar here. Now, if I were to bring in a container, I could bring in a container from the United States, and if I could get that duty-free and tax-free, I could probably save a lot of money. However, I still got to pay for that solar. So if I could bring in that solar with whatever I'm bringing in, it would be wise. Otherwise, it's probably not going to save you money. And I got mine here. And of course, they're importing all that stuff, but they've got the connections, and they're importing it in. And so so I was able to actually get a really great price on my solar here.
Yeah, the connections are very, very valuable at the retreat to meet those people and have other people that have used their services and are pleased with their services, because it's expensive to learn the hard way, trial and error. When you're dealing with building a house, getting legal work done.
Yeah, there are lots and lots of challenges. So you do have to do your due diligence on that. Doug asks, have you seen any of the modular homes that Johnny is looking at for his development? And, no, I haven't. I know that I think Johnny is, he's talking about all that. He hasn't moved forward on that just yet. And, I think it's one of those things that it's something Johnny would like to do, but it's still in the very beginning stages. And so I haven't heard anything. I hadn't got an update on that. Okay. But hey, I hopefully we'll have Johnny as a guest speaker on our Living in Costa Rica podcast here pretty soon. And hopefully maybe we'll ask him that. Okay. And, Pamela was saying she was at the last retreat, and she said she really loved the talk that I had with the builder at the retreat. And of course, we always like to do that because it really kind of opens you up and gives you a huge understanding of how different it is to build here in Costa Rica. So, hey, Pamela will tell you that it's well worth it to go to the event and get all of the contacts, get all of that information, Keith says, hey, you had some of that fish you caught, and I'm so jealous. And hey, let me tell you, it was good. I'm talking about, it was so good. And that's probably, I think that's our favorite way to eat fish is to cook it on over the fire, huh?
Definitely. Yeah.
Man, that was really good to have fish over the fire. Real good. Now, Keith says that he has seen some of the nice concrete houses that they're building here. One is a 2-story and had a waterfall coming down from the roof into the pool that they built. Now, I always say that, or I like to say it's very difficult to get anyone to build you a good house. However, I'm never talking about San Jose and that metropolitan area. If you live or you want to build very, very close to the San Jose or metropolitan area, man, there are some builders there that have the experience and can build it right. Okay. However, they're building in San Jose in the metropolitan area where people have money. Most of those builders are not leaving San Jose. And I don't think I was going to say you can't pay to come to your place, but I guess if you have crazy money, money solves a multitude of issues. Okay. So you can get some really, because, Ticos will get mad at me because I say you can't find someone to build it the way you want it. You can. Okay. In San Jose, you can. And get off your high horse. This channel is meant for gringos. This channel is not for Ticos. Okay. This channel is to help gringos understand how to adapt to life in Costa Rica. And so I give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm not banging it on Ticos. I'm helping you to understand it is a whole different way of life. And now that you understand the ugly, you can say, oh, well, you know what? Alan and Rebecca, they warned me that this is going to happen. And now it's not going to affect you so much. It makes a huge, huge difference. Okay.
Yeah. We're used to all these rules and stuff in the United States, these laws. And we know that if somebody doesn't do a good job, they're not going to be in business for very long. They're going to get sued or they're not going to be able to get their license renewed and stuff like that. That's not the situation.
And Keith said he saw this house in Coweta. That is surprising. Hey, that's good. Look there, and who knows who built this house, but there are, and it's like Michael was saying earlier, when it's usually the exception when you can find a good builder in Costa Rica. Now, if you do find a good builder in Costa Rica, it's the exception. It's like you hired someone like me. You hired a foreigner, but you can hire a Tico who is the exception. And normally, if he's an exception, it's because he went to the United States, he saw, he learned, and he came back, and he's like, wow, I can make a killing by coming to Costa Rica and building it with United States standards. Because, hey, I'm telling you, every single restaurant that does business to a United States standard, every business that says, I'm going to give super customer service and not Tico customer service, it's always jam-packed. And look, one example is the BMAs. The BMAs, they used to have just typical grocery stores, but they went to the United States and they came back and said, we're going to make all of our BMAs have a standard similar to and comparable to the United States. And their stores are jam-packed. Every single one of them. Why?
Even though they're more expensive.
Yeah, and they're more expensive. But they said, you know what? We're going to give super customer service. It's going to be clean. It's going to be air conditioned. It's going to be lit. We're going to have clean toilets. Imagine that. So, you know, anytime that you do it with a spirit of excellence, you'll make a killing in Costa Rica every single time.
And of course, we always say the United States because that's where we're from. We've never lived in Canada. We don't know what we just know having lived in the United States what we were used to and then coming here. But gosh, the things that are better or far outweigh and exceed anything that's negative.
Yeah. Now, you know, Historic Metal says, I expected to see a lot more block built homes than poured forms, but I'm not familiar with how various metals work in tropical climates, etc. And yes, you know, here in Costa Rica, they do a whole lot more block houses. Now, here a few years ago, they came out with the prefab concrete houses, and hey, I mean, it's kind of like putting together an erector set. You know,
I think all the older houses,
all of the older houses are block houses.
Yeah, what do you call those blocks? Cinder blocks.
Yeah, cinder block houses.
Yeah. And
now,
some of them would have wood from
wood but meter up from the floor. Okay, now in San Jose and a metropolitan area, you'll see what's called poured forms. Okay, but I don't know that I've seen any houses outside of San Jose, the metropolitan area, where they pouring a house. Most of the time it's just block. Now, obviously, once they get done with it, you can't tell it's block because they put the finish on the outside and you can't even tell it's cinder block. And that's the bad thing, because a lot of gringos who get a house built and if they're not here, they got this new method where they're stacking the blocks instead of interlocking the blocks. And dude, your house has no integrity at all. And so that's why, but see, after they put the finish on the outside, you don't know that it wasn't built properly. So that's things that you have to know about.
Yeah. And even in the some of the rural areas, there is a new design, new style of housing, you know, the new builds. They're very pretty, but then we also see stuff that just because they look prettier and fresher, you know, because they're new, they're still doing stuff that is very odd, that we find is odd, like running the PVC on top of the ground, you know, for drainage, and still having plumbing on the outside of the wall instead of the inside of the wall. Little things like that were just
it's what they're used to, you know, not even putting in a P trap, you know. It's like, why put in a P trap? That's extra money. I mean, the water flows without a P trap, but you know, so it's functional. So it is a humongous difference, you know.
Yeah, now, and we've seen new builds that are still using like just the one tank for the sewer.
Yeah, you know. Now, Keith says, I have a prefab house. He's talking about a prefab concrete house, and a prefab concrete house has solid walls as opposed to a cinder block house that has the holes, you know, in it. And so, hey, one of the pros is that you don't have to worry about bugs inside your walls. You don't have to worry about mold and mildew in there. And that's one of the huge disadvantages of having a cinder block house, because a lot of times it's built during the rainy season. So you will have a huge issue with mold. And if you get mold inside a cinder block house, there's no removing that. Okay.
Now, one of the cons about the panel houses, the prefab houses, is you can't always put the like the outlets and the plumbing exactly where you want it, because the walls are solid. But if you have a good architect, a good builder, they will position those, but they're limited because they are prefab. They are a certain dimension.
Yeah. So that's, you know, so that I'm I'm glad you brought that up because, that's one of the cons. While you can throw up a prefab house really fast, okay, one of the cons is that the outlets are only in the post, okay, not in those cement walls. However, you can still run electricity on the outside if you want, or you could buy a prefab house and you can actually put a wall on the inside. While that's a little extra expense, you can, and then it doesn't look like a prefab concrete house on the inside. And then you can put electrical outlets wherever you want. Okay, so that is a huge difference. Hey, Patton Grass here has a good question. He says, I'm a house builder and I want to move to the Caribbean coast. I have a Dutch company. Can I work in Costa Rica as an expat from that Dutch company without a working visa? You're doing a great job. Okay, so you can come here as a tourist or as an expat, and you can open a Dutch company. Okay, you can open up let's say you want to open up a contractor business. So you can open up a contractor business. Oh, I don't know how that came up. That wasn't supposed to come up.
I was doing that. You were talking with your hands, Cajun.
Yeah, I was talking with my hand. So hey, yes, you can open up a. There you go. You can open up you can be a contractor in Costa Rica. Open up your own contracting business. Now, technically, you cannot work it, but you can hire a bunch of Ticos and you can oversee them and they can work it. Okay. So until you become a legal bona fide resident, you can't legally work. Okay. So lots of people come down here, buy a restaurant, buy a business, hire Ticos to work for them. So yeah, you can come down here, you can open up a contracting business, you can train your Ticos how to do it properly, and you can start making money. So I hope that answers your question. Well, and that is a disadvantage when you have a concrete house. It's really hard to tack your Justin Bieber posters up on the concrete walls. So that's one of the reasons I don't like concrete. So if I was to build concrete, I would have to have a wall on the inside that I can actually put stuff in.
Yeah, because when you make that hole, you have to patch that if you're going to take something down. And it's a nightmare to work in the shower, do any kind of work in the showers. How many places have we rented? The shower is leaking.
Oh my gosh.
Inside the wall.
Inside the wall,
You got to tear up the tile and tear up the concrete.
It makes it difficult. And Michael says, I assume you can build your own house without a visa. Yes, you can. You do have to make sure that you get your right permits, blah, 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 and all of that stuff. But you're not the one that's actually getting a permit. You got to hire an architect. The architect does have to sign off on it. So you will have to pay that architect, okay, to sign off on because he's the one that's getting you all your permits and stuff. So yeah, you'll have to get him to sign off on all that. But yeah, you can build your own house and you don't have to worry about that. Anybody can build their own house. Okay. And that's one of the things I like about Costa Rica. Ticos will build their own house. And I've told this story before. I know one guy, he built a house inside a bamboo jungle and he just started nailing stuff, tying stuff down there. And while it was just thrown together, he had a roof over his head and a floor under his feet inside that bamboo jungle. So, hey, we're already at over an hour. And so, hey, I said I want to keep these down to an hour. So unless you just got a question, you just got to me. I answer my question. I do want to keep it. I want to keep it down to an hour. So, hey, any last minute questions that I missed it, you really want me to answer your question, put it in the chat right now. Okay. So that I can answer that. Okay. So I'm just taking a quick look right here. But hey, I greatly appreciate all of you for being here. As always, make sure that if you're coming to the Costa Rica Relocation Retreat, the one that I host with Michael Allen and Sarah, make sure that you click the link in the description below. That way we can give you your free consultation, your 1-hour consultation. But anytime you want a consultation, you don't have to wait for a free one. You can always go to the link below, click on it, and you can schedule a consultation with us at any time. We'd be more than glad to talk to you, visit with you, and help you so that you're prepared to enjoy life in Costa Rica. Yes. All right, folks, enjoy your Christmas
to everybody.
And we hope to see you next week. We got some more exciting things to talk about. Have a great Christmas, folks. Let's see, Rebecca. Here's a question for you. How many times?
What do you say?
That's a good one, Rebecca. Here's a question for you. Count how many times Rebecca says "however" in one day. I only say it on a video. However, we'll count it next time.